Right on. Welcome, Will. Good to see you. Steaksito. Always appreciate you being here, Ed. Great. I see our Shamba friends. Um, awesome. Well, Sarah, thank you for agreeing to co-host. I know you're often, I think, have a standing call during this time, and we're lucky enough to have you all to ourselves today on the Regenerati News Hour. And I think we're talking about there's just so much to discuss. New partnerships happening. We've got a governance proposal up. We've got Regen Ledger on the horizon. We've got Vera making moves out in the voluntary carbon markets. And here's Regen and through the midst of a bear market. Building and growing like no other. And I'm super grateful to be part of this wild journey with this squad and the community that just continues to blossom around it. So I don't know. Why don't you pick off something of our many options? We've got obviously some folks we can pull up to chit chat. I see our old friend Sophia out there. Hey, Sophia. But anyhow, what's moving for you this morning, Sarah?
Yeah, thanks for that intro, Dave. I think let's start with some tactical updates that are just good for folks in the network to be aware of. And then we can start some of our sort of announcements and discussions with folks that have joined us here this morning. So um, we have a governance proposal live on Kepler right now. It is what number prop is this? Prop
We're at
13.
13. Yep.
Which is actually my favorite number. So
Yeah.
I welcome folks who have Regen wallets to go to the Kepler dashboard and take a look at this proposal because it's actually a relatively important proposal. They're all important proposals, but this one I think is really important that folks understand what it is that we're discussing in this proposal and what this proposal is focused on because it does affect the whole network in a significant way. So this particular proposal 13, and you can also see the discussion that went on in Commonwealth that formed this proposal on chain. This proposal is discussing the currency allow list criteria. So the context here is that we have to make a decision as a community as to which currencies or tokens are going to be on an allow list as forms of exchange for applications that are built on top of Regen Ledger. And in the context of what R&D Inc., the software company, is building in the Regen Marketplace application, this is the first step in us collectively choosing which tokens or currencies that we're going to be able to have in that user interface when folks buy and sell credits. So this particular proposal isn't picking those tokens or currencies. What it's discussing and trying to get consensus on from the community is, do we agree on this list of items as the evaluation criteria for how we as a whole community will take a look at what will eventually be the proposed list of currencies that get added to the official allow list? And so what we're discussing here is both the background of where this, context would be applied, where these currencies and tokens would ultimately be used from a functionality standpoint. And then what we're discussing in the allow list criteria is the primary criteria for analyzing any token that is proposed by the community to be included in that list. So the major four criteria that we are collectively proposing in this proposal is one, is the token a currency? Two, is the token in question IBC compatible? So that means inter blockchain communication compatible, which means it's compatible with other projects in the Cosmos ecosystem. Is the token in question liquid, stable, and safe to use? So this is a question about market volatility, stability of price, accessibility of that token. And this is particularly important when folks remember the Terra Luna spectacular meltdown a few months ago. And then the fourth major criteria is, does the token support a good onboarding experience for non-crypto natives? So this particular bullet point is quite important because a lot of the users of the Regen marketplace are they're small farmer organizations, they're nonprofits, they're cities, they're corporate sustainability departments buying credits. A lot of these folks are definitely not crypto native. They're not always in Discord. They may not really use Twitter much. A lot of them are really old school. Email tends to be their favorite form of communication. And so they have very, old school accounting experiences and need to be able to quickly and easily engage with the tokens that we're choosing in a way that is accessible to them. And this is also a very important question when we remember that a lot of smallholder farmers across the globe are in the global south. They're in places that are less banked or unbanked. And so the ability for us to choose some tokens, at least, that have a good onboarding experience for non-crypto natives is also about accessibility for engaging with designing credits and selling credits and buying credits and participating in that exchange mechanism. And then there's two additional criteria in this proposal that are really about aligning around Regen Network's principles. And so the first one is ethical alignment with Regen Network aims. Is the current zero token in question something that supports or enables a better world? And does it specifically have a relationship to ecological regeneration? The second principle that we're proposing here is that the tokens that we choose have some virtuous cycle with the eco credits that are developed via the Regen Network tools or other ecological asset types. And so this is an example you could apply for this bullet point is, including eco credits into a specific stablecoin's collateral system might be a reason that we might choose, a particular stable coin over another if it has a direct relationship with the eco credit assets that will be created using the Regen Network tools by community members. So I just wanted to make sure that folks know this proposal is here. And again, this is not choosing the token or currency list. It's really affirming that these are the most important criteria that we feel should be proposed as a community. So definitely pop over to Commonwealth and see. There was sort of a lively debate we had about what should the criteria be, and some folks started to throw out some tokens. But this proposal is live, I think, until 7/22, which is Friday. Right now, we're at 96.67% voting yes for this proposal. So token holders of the Regen token should get in here and should levy their vote and participate in the governance process. And maybe what I'll do, Dave, is I'll stop there and see if the audience has any particular questions about this proposal, why it's here, what's in it, anything that folks want to get clarity on, since we do have more space this morning to make sure that we're resourcing community members around this topic.
Yep, I think it's a good idea.
If anyone has a question, raise your hand. I'll let you facilitate this part, Dave.
Yeah, no problem.
This part.
Yeah, so if you have a comment or question on which coin and why, so I think especially in the context of the recent implosions of things and the bear market, picking matters. So if you have a thought, holler. Otherwise, we'll give it just another minute here, and then we'll move on to our next topic. And also, if you do have thoughts, you can follow up with us on the Commonwealth thread. And just a reminder, you can actually get the details of this proposal on your Kepler desktop or mobile app. So, okay, seeing no questions at the time. Thank you, Sarah, for summarizing. Welcome to some new friends, Earthbank, Crypto Commons, and other folks. Welcome. What do you think about, Sarah? We've got friends from Shamba here. How do you feel like maybe talking about that recent partnership announcement? I think we're actually going to get it up on Twitter today. But exciting new partnerships, and again, as this kind of hashtag built on regen is really continues to take off, and as we, I think after a lot of time of building, frankly, the infrastructure, both technologically and socially, for the past couple of years, we're really starting to get some rapid acceleration around connecting with those projects around the world that have already been doing the work. They're already builders, and we finally have been able to connect in to each other with the Regen Network ecosystem and creating some beautiful new ways of interacting. And I think Shamba is more recently a way of doing that. So I have brought up Waru from Shamba to come say hello. Sarah, any just background from Regen's side before we jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll be sharing a public announcement on this today, but Regen Network has developed a strategic partnership with the Shaman Network, which I'm sure that the gentleman that will speak next can speak more directly to who Shamba is and what Shamba is doing in Africa. But ultimately, we are partnering with Shamba to support them designing ecological credits with the Regen Network tools that include, digital and decentralized MRV, geospatial analytics, and ultimately working to look at regenerative farming practices on the African continent for smallholder farmers. So our team is just really excited to support Shamba with the next steps to start figuring out what these eco credits will look like, support their design cycle, help them map out their data to the data module to bring their data of these credits on chain, and just generally partner on their journey using the tools that are publicly available in our decentralized registration system that can help them to raise up their work and ultimately be able to financially support the farmers on the ground on the African continent that are doing, spectacular regenerative work and need tools and processes to further unlock the financialization of their ecological impact. So with that, I think I'll pass it over to our friends here from Shamba and let them kind of dig in a little bit deeper about, what is Shamba focusing on and, what's the work that we're going to be doing together.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for having us here. And hi, everyone. My name is Kennedy. I'm from Shamba. And we are really excited about this partnership with Regen. Shamba has been working over the course of the last couple of months on developing tools that can be used for MRV. We've built out a data oracle for allowing ecological data to be used on chain, specifically for MRV by projects that are working on credits, and not just carbon credits, but different kinds of eco credits. So we are working with some projects that need data for their water credits, others are looking at carbon, and we've been developing over the last maybe 6 or so months the oracle that allows this data to come on chain. And now that this is at an advanced level, we are moving on to the second step in our journey, which is basically figuring out how some of these new technologies, some of this new data can come into play to unlock opportunities for groups that have been traditionally excluded. And in this respect, we are thinking about farmers. Especially here in Africa, farmers tend to find that it is difficult to access financing, which is required for a lot of the regenerative work they do. So regenerative agriculture is nothing new. People here have been doing it for a long time, but prior to now, we haven't really seen the mechanisms and the infrastructure in place to kind of like take stock of what is being done and reward these farmers for that effort. So at Shamba, we are now partnering with Regen to bring refi to farmers, especially in the global south. We are working with farming groups all over. We've started actually in Kenya, and we're also reaching out to our friends in Tanzania. And soon we'll be moving to Uganda as we spread this refi message and as we work with communities to help them capture evidence for what they're doing, all the regenerative works they're putting in place, and get them to, get some benefit out of it. And the way we are looking at this at Shamba is that, there are two ways in which this is going to have an impact. Of course, when farmers are incentivized to continue doing regeneration, it gives them that incentive to continue investing, and also these resources will unlock, resources that are required to do this regeneration. But we're also looking at it from the point of improving livelihoods. So farmers being typically financially excluded groups, we believe that, the new opportunities brought on by refi, things like carbon credits, water credits, all of these are things that can be able to, add some more money into the pockets of farmers, especially in the rural areas. So at Shamba, we've been looking at how we can be able to capture evidence for regeneration, and how we can be able to use the Regen ledger to help these farmers create ecological credits on chain, looking at how those credits can, from there be able to unlock different types of financing for farmers. One of the biggest challenges that farmers face is that whenever they try to access financing, they typically don't have any collateral to get financing from lenders, traditional lenders, and the like. And we want to explore how new digital assets, such as on-chain eco credits, can be those assets that provide collateral to farming groups and farming communities, and allow them to unlock financing from traditional lenders and traditional creditors. So we are really excited about this. We've been working with a number of projects in the refi space over the last couple of months, in the carbon space, in the water space, and everything. But this is the first time when we are now taking this technology down to the very, down to the ground, to the people who have been traditionally excluded. We are also asking ourselves questions such as what technology needs to be built in order to make, this whole thing much easier for farmers to interact with. Typically, farmers, they don't have access to a lot of technology, they don't have access to a lot of capacity. So when we are thinking of things like, Web3 wallets and the like, these tend to be things that are not very easy for farmers to interact with. So over the next couple of months, we shall be working with farmers. We shall be delving into some of these issues, looking at awareness building, looking at building capacity, and developing the right tools and technologies to allow farmers to finally start, enjoying the benefits of some of these new technologies and some of these new opportunities. So we are very excited, and we look forward to working with Regen to develop this. And we believe that this is just the beginning. We are going to be starting with carbon credits, mainly from carbon that has been sequestered in the soils. But we believe there are so many other credits that can be unlocked in due time. And we believe that this is not just going to, change farmers' lives, but it is going to actually, supercharge the whole regenerative movement, both in Africa as well as other parts of the global south. So we are very excited, and we look forward to this partnership. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kennedy. That's exciting. I can hear the enthusiasm in your voice, and really excited to have you fully integrated into the Regen Network community. So I did have one follow-up question. Could you maybe speak to, just to give us a sense, because obviously so much, and probably, carbon, gets, I think, maybe too much attention at times as kind of the lead actor in as the proxy for ecological regeneration and in the marketplace. Could you maybe describe a couple of the other credits that you could see being important on the ground in Africa that could be brought, could be tokenized and brought on chain, that you think would be as important, or maybe even more so, for communities that you work with, in the big tent of regeneration, not just what the market is ready for today, but actually what is regenerating and repairing communities as well as ecologies in Africa.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think, as you've rightly said, carbon gets most of the of the limelight when it comes to ecological credits. And I think this has been because traditionally it's among the first credits that have been created, and there's an existing market for. But we are also seeing water credits becoming a big deal. We've already seen several projects within Africa that are actually incentivizing farmers to put in place practices, especially in the upstream areas of the watershed, that would, translate to better quantity and higher quality of water downstream. So water credits are among one of the biggest things we want to go after, right after carbon. And I think it's interesting because, soil and water have this duality. They are always connected within the landscape. So when you're thinking of regenerative actions that, capture carbon in the soil, that improve the soil health, these actions tend to also have some significant impact on the hydrology within a watershed, and they also improve the quality of water. So water credits are one of the biggest credits which we are going to be going after right after carbon. Some of the others are a bit niche right now. For instance, we've been speaking with some communities and some projects that are based in other parts of Africa, working with farmers on other ecosystem services. So, for instance, there are some communities that are doing great work around bees, and because of what they've been doing, they've been able to increase the number of pollinators in an area, and this has, translated to a lot of positive benefit in terms of pollination and all those other services. So I think there are various ecosystem services that can be monitored and can be turned into credits. I think right now we are still at the very start of this. It's still a very nascent, the nascent part of of this project. But I do believe as we move forward, we are going to identify other credits that we can be able to tokenize and bring on chain. But to start off with, we are going to be looking mostly at carbon, mostly soil, organic carbon, and water. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks for that context. That's helpful. Sarah, thoughts here before we move on?
Yeah, I'm just wondering from a personal level. I've personally never been to Africa, but I'm wondering if you could maybe tell us what the typical day or experience of one of these smallholder farmers in Africa is like. I think it's important that we kind of build a visual of, who the humans are that are going to be affected by your design work, and get a sense of what kind of communities do they live in, what is the physical environment that they're in? Is it desert? Is it trees? Like, can you tell us the story of some of your just community partners so that we can be a little bit more connected to what their world and their daily experience is like?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. I think the reality for most of the smallholder farmers in Africa is that, first of all, most of the farming and agriculture is subsistence based. Not a lot of farmers here have very big land that they can use for commercial farming of any sort. So most people will typically have an acre or two or something of the sort, and most of the food that is usually grown is typically used within the family and the household where the farmer is, with whatever little remains being sold off to pay for things like school fees and other expenses. But by and large, most of the agriculture is subsistence. Farmers tend to rely a lot on their farms. It is how they feed their families. It is how they educate their kids. It is basically the source of all their livelihood. And of course, this has challenges when you start thinking of issues like climate change and climate shocks, which can tend to cause a crop to fail or give them a bad season. It tends to impact on their livelihoods really hard. So part of what we are looking at, especially with helping farmers create these carbon credits and or these ecological credits and unlock new forms of financing, is that we can be able to add resilience to some of these farming communities, because now, aside from the food that they are able to produce on the land, there is another way in which they can also be able to benefit from that land and the kind of custodial or stewardship practices that they're doing on the land. So just to cap it up, the farmers here tend to have very small pieces of land. And typically when things get tough, especially during this when the climate when climate change tends to bite, unless they are incentivized to protect this land and to get some benefit from that protection, they will try to extract as much as they can from the land. So we believe that refi plays a big role in not just improving the farmers' lives, but also making this kind of protections and regeneration more sustainable. Because at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, you can't really tell a farmer not to use the land in a way that degrades it if they don't have any other option. And we believe refi and incentivizing farmers through opening to them new channels for financing is one of the ways in which we shall be able to sustainably regenerate. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Kennedy. I really think that that visual brings home why this work is so important to the communities that you get to work with every day. So I just want to thank you for your work, because I imagine that the financialization of these ecosystem services for these communities, that money could be really life changing and could be another stable source of income for these communities that really can fundamentally improve their lives on a daily basis. So that is just so exciting. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kennedy. I know we've gone back and forth on email to get the announcement out, and I know that you're going to some of these farms in person this week. So I just want to thank you for your work with your community, and just let you know our team is super excited to really dig into all the scientific details and start to get to the nitty gritty of designing these credits and figuring out the MRV on Regen Ledger. So this is, like you said, just the start of a really exciting journey together. So we're just really humbled and excited to have you and your community come and join the Regen Network in this way.
Thank you, Sarah. Glad to be here and looking forward to working with you guys to spread this across the global south. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Well, I think with that, Dave, maybe we should move on to another topic since we're halfway through the news hour. I was thinking maybe we could talk for a second about Cosmoverse, which is sort of a
Yeah.
hard left from this topic.
Yeah, no worries. But such is the nature of the Regen Network ecosystem. So for those of not aware, and we're going to do a couple pivots here in the last half hour, but quick dip into Colombia, Medellin. We're all, or many of us, are going to be landing there from the Regen ecosystem late September. Super excited to be there. Big shout out to CryptoCito and his squad for again putting together this conference. And for those of you who are not aware, we are firmly nestled into the bosom of the Cosmos ecosystem. A very, it matters, right? We spent, for those of you also, again, are not aware, we actually spent as a team a lot of time very early on in 2017, 2018, considering where to set up shop, which of the blockchain ecosystems made sense. And, we landed firmly with, obviously, Gregory Landaway played a big role in understanding the power of interoperability, sovereignty, the future of inter-blockchain communication, all the things that Cosmos gambled on early in its architecture. I think, fast forwarding to 2022, we're just seeing the promises of that design and that concept and the philosophy come to fruition. And the Cosmos ecosystem is rapidly expanding. People are coming over from Ethereum. People are originating blockchains, using the Cosmos SDK. And the community of the Cosmos ecosystem matters for Regen Network, as it is giving us the ability to create a domain-specific blockchain, but also be able to interoperate with an increasing number of other chains. And this is our chance in September to reconvene with this Cosmos community and its rapidly expanding group of IBC-connected chains. So we're super excited. It's a chance to obviously reconnect with each other, reconnect with Cosmos, and also I think it'll be probably the first time that we're going to have some focused refi conversations within the Cosmos ecosystem, as there's, if there is anything such as competition, I think refi is racing across many of the chains, Polygon and Cello, and again, all friends and family at the end of the day. And I think Regen in particular is holding, much of the flame, if you will, for a regenerative finance and Cosmos ecosystem. So excited to bring that to bear when we land in Medellin. Anyhow, and Sarah, anything else like just moving for you as far as the significance of this time together. And of course, if you are end up coming, we'd love to, for you to put a hand up and a shout for all of our Medellin folks. But yeah, some pretty exciting stuff coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, maybe I'll add a couple details about what we're going to be doing in Medellin, who's coming, and then really, I think, reinforcing our relationship to Cosmos. So, unbeknownst to many people, the Regen Network engineering team is the primary and lead engineering maintainers of the Cosmos SDK, which is really one of the big pieces of shared infrastructure of the entire Cosmos ecosystem. So, more than half of our engineering team in any juncture, including the focus of our CTO, Aaron, is on the Cosmos SDK. So when we go to Medellin, to Cosmoverse, we are going to be sharing our work with the Cosmos SDK and representing cross-organizationally the development pathway that the SDK is on and kind of where the SDK is going to be evolving into in the future. So it's important to us, and I think it's important to the whole Cosmos community and the Interchain Foundation that we go and we take the opportunity to teach SDK. Which to me is really exciting because interoperable, accessible technology is really the foundational basis that allows all the different projects in the Cosmos ecosystem to be sovereign, to be able to interconnect and communicate to each other, but have their own communities, have their own governance, and have their own application-specific nature of each project's focus. We're also going to be teaching Regen Ledger, Regen Marketplace, eco credit design. So there will be some workshops that we are going to give in person that are about our specific application for the carbon market, and walking folks through what that really looks like on Regen Ledger and why it's architected in the way that it is. I'm going to be on a panel about refining the Cosmos ecosystem. So if folks want to come and learn about the Cosmos Zero campaign and the protocols that are offsetting and sort of our focus of technology versus other refi projects in the Cosmos ecosystem, there will be a lively panel for that regard. And Gregory, our CEO at R&D, will be giving a keynote speech because we are sponsors of Cosmoverse conference. I think now we are up to maybe 17 people from the Regen Network ecosystem, from the foundation and Low Labs and Cerulean Ventures, our venture capital firm, and the R&D Inc. team. So it is going to be an adventure down to Medellin. We're really, really excited to connect with folks in person and have the opportunity to really tell the story, not just of refi, but why Regen Network is built in the Cosmos ecosystem. It's a very distinct decision that was made from an engineering perspective that is really actually very foundational and important to the way in which we govern our network and the sovereignty that Regen Network has as a refi project over its own chain. Really roots from that architectural approach within the Cosmos ecosystem and is one of the things that makes it fundamentally different from projects building on Cello and projects that are built on Polygon. Regen Ledger is its own blockchain with its own community and its own sovereign governance system, which allows us to dig deeper at a design level and a governance level than a lot of other refi projects have the technical capacity to do so. So we look forward to seeing folks. There are tickets available if folks want to go. We absolutely recommend considering it if you're dipping your toes into Cosmos land and you just want to come and meet everybody and learn about the technology. It should be a really fun time. And we're just really grateful. I want to give a shout out to all the organizers of the conference. They've been super easy to deal with and super helpful. So we're just feeling really excited about the chance to be with our community and just really stoked that we're going in such large force. So I think with that, maybe I'll just like pause and see, does anybody have any like questions about Cosmoverse or our relationship to Cosmos in general, like why we love interoperable shared technologies, anything like that?
Well, and while you're considering that, I just, it's hard to overemphasize, in the goal of creating a global public ecological ledger, and understanding that our engineering team is literally the maintainer of the Cosmos SDK, which is, technologically harnessing a massively growing set of interoperable chains is just really incredible, and I think speaks to how bullish we all are, not in the ability to build the infrastructure required to host a global ecological ledger like Regen is seeking to do. So that so if you're with all due respect to really everybody, the investment in engineering that R&D has made in particular, really early on, it's hard to see sometimes, right? For those of you who are like me and not banging on code, but once you understand the significance of what maintain the SDK means to the blockchain ecosystem as a whole, and then to understand that the same engineering team is building a global ecological ledger is, I think, should bring a lot of hope that we actually can pull this off. And and with our friends in Polygon and Celo and Ethereum, that we're going to be interconnected and interoperable and working with all of those ecosystems as well in collaboration, because we've got the chops to be able to pull that off. So super exciting. Again, big shout of respect to folks like Will and Gregory and Christian and Aaron, who early on strategically made those investments to understanding that it may take years, but here we are, really at the looking over the next horizon at some really big opportunities that have been allowed by those early investments. So congratulations, team. Right on. It looks like Sev has popped up. I'm going to invite you up, Sev. Good to see you. You had a question or comment for the squad?
Yeah, so I am strongly considering going to Cosmoverse and excited to go. I'm curious, like, for the team and all the folks that are going from Regen Network, how are you all going just for the event? Are you going for an extended period of time and visiting other projects on the ground in the area or in Colombia somewhere? And is there any group chat or coordination around places to stay or just like side events or anything like that that you're aware of that I can engage in and participate in it?
Hey, Sev. Good morning. So we don't have a chat started yet, but I like that idea. That would be probably a good thing for us to consider setting up in some way, Dave, something that helps the community kind of understand where we're at and what we're engaging with. Our teams are going to be coming from a team-wide retreat in the United States, the subgroup that's going down to Medellin. So I think that some folks may be returning home after. There are possibly a handful of folks that are going to stick around in Colombia through DevCon from our extended team. So there may be some opportunities there for folks to engage with local projects or participate in other events that may be happening. But I think we should, like you're requesting here, Seb, figure out a way to set up the where and the when loop for what's happening in refi at Cosmoverse. And there are some other folks that are going to be there from Chain 4 and Wind and IXO and other friends of the ecosystem that do social impact or ecological impact in some other fashion that might make sense for us to put together kind of a group refi at Cosmoverse loop and make sure that everyone has access to all the opportunities and information in the community. Our team is staying at one big shared lodging. So if and it's only 10 minutes or so from the particular location. So if there are other folks that are looking to stay nearby, I'm happy to share information about approximately where we'll be in town. If folks want to be able to be close and be able to kind of like easily connect with our team, or minimize the amount of travel around the town while we're all there. So let's set that up, Dave. Let's let the people know what's
Yep,
going on.
got
It's
it.
a great idea. Love it,
Awesome.
Dev.
Awesome. Well, with that, looking forward to see you all in Medellin, or some of you at least. Sarah, what do you think? Do you feel like prepped enough to be able to touch into Vera's recent movements? I think we saw an announcement from our colleagues at Flow Carbon that they were pausing. Much brouhaha about their big successful raise, and then immediately it seemed like the brakes were put on with the announcement that Vera was essentially, pulling up the gates temporarily, at least, around honoring, if I understood, on-chain retired credits that originated from their ecosystem. And then it sounded like they came out with another post yesterday that basically said, "Hey, we're trying to figure out what we're going to do," and it seemed to be a little softer in its tone, in that they are looking to figure out what's next for Vera and their relationship to Web3. I'd be curious. I mean, I know you're one of the experts in this space. Kind of what your high level takeaway is, what it means for Regen and our other friends in the carbon climate ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good question. So, for folks, if you go to Vera's website or just like Google Vera crypto token, this announcement off those keywords ought to just pop up on Google. It was posted yesterday, the 20th. And it's ultimately just a statement that's really very short that says there's going to be a public consultation on a proposed approach that it sounds like they've designed to the tokenization of Vera assets onto blockchains. There'll be a webinar in August that folks can look for the announcement for when that's happening. You can sign up for their newsletter or look at their website or follow their socials. They'll make an announcement. And ultimately, they're looking at this as they use the word opportunity. So the opportunities that crypto instruments and tokens can present for environmental social markets. So it sounds like they're open to further discussions and discoveries on how things will be tokenized. And it seems like the public consultation and the bullet points they provide is really looking at things like, how do they need to change their terms of service? What would their fee structure be for credits that would be tokenized? What would the requirements be, or how would the requirements be implemented around KYC, know your customer, which is really a financial services tool that makes sure that you're not, sending money to a money launderer or criminal. And then just looking at what are responsible measures for tokenization. There may be certain use cases that Vera is more comfortable with than others on the blockchain. So overall, I think that they're trying to keep our community at large updated about their progress, give us signposts of some of their sticking points and discussions that they want to have with the community. Dave and I are representatives on the blockchain infrastructure carbon offsetting working group, where many of the refi projects, the bigger ones in particular, sit. And we've long had, discussions, and there's different groups of us, Regen included, that have had different discussions with Vera over the years about the value of the blockchain, some of the reasons that we're all using blockchain, some of that logic to help them understand it. And so I see this as like a positive explanation of what's to come. I think it's an opportunity for the community to engage and participate. So I definitely recommend folks keep an eye out for, it says later in August. So maybe it's the second half of August. Maybe mark your calendars to keep an eye out for the post. And ultimately, I think Vera is just trying to find a responsible way that they feel comfortable with and their project developer community feels comfortable with to move forward with the pathway of tokenization. This doesn't necessarily... yeah, sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I'd be curious, and and this isn't a gotcha question. but more maybe an opportunity to explain a little bit more of like philosophically Regen Network's approach to this and posture. Why does Vera matter, and why does Vera not matter? To Regen. Because I think there's an answer to both. And maybe with different timelines. But there's. I'd be curious just to get your kind of immediate instinctual response to that question.
Yeah, I think Vera and Gold Standard and CAR and ACR and all the existing registries have this long body of work that has really driven a lot of the voluntary carbon market for decades. And so in that regard, I think that their work is important to all of our work. Their work and their decisions really, they don't directly affect Regen Network. Regen Network's technology allows for us to use Regen Ledger as a meta registry system. So every time a credit class is designed, the communities that create that credit class and are assigned with the administrative powers of that credit class, it's essentially its own registry. So when we bring City Forest credits onto the blockchain in a couple of weeks for our marketplace launch, those City Forest credit classes is the City Forest credits registry on Regen Ledger. It's the same thing that would happen inside of our system with Vera credits. Vera can instantiate credit classes for its methods and its issuance process and govern those on the blockchain on Regen Ledger autonomously and to themselves. But the tools of Regen Network are really designed to be interoperable to create this meta registry system where all ecological assets produced in the voluntary carbon market could be instantiated in our system. But the tools we're really designing aren't, they're not designed for the use case of just bringing, Vera credits or gold standard credits onto the blockchain. If you look at Built on Regen, there's 40 plus different projects, now including Shamba and Earthbank and Moss, that are designing credits using our tools to design new methodologies and design new credits on chain and govern those credit classes on chain. That has nothing to do with Vera or Gold Standard or any of the other registries. This is new science and new communities that are, have found those processes cumbersome over the last 20 years, that want to have more control over their asset issuance and their asset design process. And so the tools in the process of Regen Network and the launch of the Regen Marketplace, these are tools that exist entirely independently of Vera or Gold Standard, or even the concept of bridging existing credits from the voluntary carbon market on chain. So the nice thing for Regen in this situation is our business model, our community stability, our token from a governance perspective, the design capabilities of communities using the tools we have created open source for these purposes, they're not affected no matter what decisions that Vera or Gold Standard or any other registry makes. They're really completely not related to their work. Although we do welcome, if Vera wants to be able to govern their credits on chain and have governance power over those credits and standards on the blockchain, that they could explore using our technology, because it is the only technology that's designed to provide on-chain governance with credit class instantiation. That is not a feature of the way any other system is designed on the blockchain right now. All the other systems are just bridging on, bridging off, and then liquidity pooling. So we do something different, and we're always going to do what we do because our systems and tools are designed to empower nonprofits and small farmers and communities to be able to have these tools, to be in charge of these processes and design decisions that make sense for their use cases, their ecologies, their communities, and their localities. And that's never going to change, no matter what other voluntary registry standards do or how they perceive the blockchain's value or not value. Is that a good summary, Dave?
That's exactly what I was hoping you would share. Well played.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't actually affect us. Although we very much support everyone on the blockchain working together to be in conversation with registries, to maintain positive relationships, to support their discovery pathway, to learn about the value of blockchain as technology. And we're here to support the whole refi community on this journey, because we have partners and friends in the industry that will be affected by any decision that Vera made because they've built their business models around the use of Vera's registry, Vera's technology, and Vera's credits. So we're here to be supportive, but we don't really have skin in this game. We're really here more to support the industry's evolution and the industry's relationship with Vera's registry.
Excellent. Yes, thank you for sharing that. Sev, you had a question, and also we have 8 minutes left. If there are other community questions or comments related to Vera's recent movements or anything else moving in Regen Network, we'll just keep this open for questions for the last 8 minutes and hear from the community. So, Sev, go ahead.
So I am curious about the demand side of eco credits. So there's these many various different methodologies being built on Regen for credit classes. I'm wondering, like, what is the current state of relations with, say, companies and their net zero policy going? I know this focus on carbon is a big issue, but also I'm sure that there are still huge appetites for looking beyond carbon and these methodologies that are carbon plus co-benefits, etc. Where does one look to see what that demand looks like for current eco credits within Regen Network, and then any insights on like what demand will look like? I guess we'll know once the marketplace is live, right? But yeah, just kind of curious what the perspective is on the demand for these new credit classes, after they're launched.
Yeah, so right now, most of the credit sales process, it just happens with me personally. So I sell pre-sale credits that are coming down the pipeline. I sell credits that we're holding that we instantiate through retirements on chain. Yeah, I've been doing this for almost 3 years, so I know lots of people at this point that are looking for lots of credits and sort of have this giant backlog of different corporate sustainability departments, different blockchain projects, different NFT projects that they're waiting for what I call like the boutique, the weird, and the wonderful. And that's really all the stuff that is like more than, just a Red Plus credit. There's a backlog of probably 250,000 carbon credits demand for carbon plus grasslands alone. So Impact Ag is likely doing another round to produce more credits this year. So that will be very interesting to watch, to see how fast those sell out. But I think most of the buyers that have always engaged with Regen Network, they do it for a couple of reasons. One is, they're looking for innovative MRP. And in the cases of what we've either purchased to bring to market as a pre-purchase mechanism with partners, or the things that are being created down our pipeline, or, the history of carbon plus grasslands with Microsoft, those purchases were made because people were really wowed by the innovative science that was underlying those credits. And folks also come to us because they want to stretch beyond just carbon. I think that there's long been this, necessary evolution that, carbon checks a box. Carbon credits are a very powerful tool for, climate change. But it's all those extra co-benefits that folks have always been asking us for. They want to look at all of the SDGs, the other ecological, the other social benefits that come with a project. I think we'll have to see what the demand looks like for projects that are breaking those items that would historically have been co-benefits and breaking them into primary benefits. Because some of those things like water credits or biodiversity credits or habitat protection credits, they really push the edges of what checks the box for a corporate sustainability department. And we're not going to know what people's interests are for those until we start the pre-sale process. I think another demand analysis challenge, Sev, is just that there's so many different kinds of credits that are coming down the pipeline. So Dave and I are constantly working through how we're going to let buyers know about what credits are coming next, and pushing into developing pre-sale processes for credit launches before they happen, so that as much money can get into the hands of these projects as fast as possible, which is ultimately one of my goals as sort of our internal trading desk, is to move capitals to projects, get them moving as fast as we can, and allow them to expand into more locales, more implementation, more land management changes, as fast as we can get that capital moved over to them. So we'll see when the marketplace launches, probably, end of summer or near Cosmoverse. This is when we start to actually get to look at this information and do market analysis and demand and really pull all the strings that are frankly just sort of like waiting in the wings for a lot of these assets to become available in the marketplace that are not far enough along in their development at this moment to be able to start pre-sale processes with buyers. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Thank you, Sarah. And I think, Paul put out from Nori put out this video on carbon offsets the other day, and he mentioned, emphasized demand is not the problem, supply is, and that's kind of what I'm hearing from you too. It sounds like there's a backlog of demand ready to be deployed, so that's really exciting.
Right on. Thanks, Sev. Good question. Our last speaker here is German from Empower Plastic. Welcome. Did you have a question for Sarah or myself, or a comment?
Yeah, I did. I guess it is a question. So, I've been talking to a few already about this, but one of the things that we have done a lot since we started is these plastic credits, which are essentially cleanup of plastic waste in nature. And so, if someone wants to try to get some different classes on Regen, I was just wondering what that process typically looks like, because I know sort of that it's governance, goes through governance, and it needs to have, I assume, well-documented processes around it, but sort of who decides how that works and how does it typically work, and maybe you can just talk about what that might look like.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure I understand your question because you broke up a little bit. You're asking how would the community make a decision to add plastic as a use case that is allowed to use the eco credit module and Regen Ledger. Is that correct?
Yeah, basically. Okay. How would that process look like?
Yeah, so right now, the core thesis of Regen Network, as it was articulated in the white paper, is around the restoration of ecological systems on land, at sea, and water, etc. And so a deviation from that core nature and natural systems as our solution for climate change would require a network-wide community governance proposal to add a new use case to that list. So what that would mean functionally is probably starting in our Discord and, with our different organizational teams, seeing who else in the ecosystem has, been touching on plastic, to see if there are other folks out there that you want to kind of team up with from a governance perspective. Then the first step would be to put a discussion out on the Commonwealth Forum, which is where we start governance processes and have public discussions as a community about, any real big network-wide changes. And those types of discussions can also happen in our public channel on Discord and on Twitter. But ultimately, Commonwealth is where the record of the discussion permanently lives. So the discussion would start on Commonwealth, and if there was positive response to that concept, a proposal could be drafted as a signaling proposal first to get sort of like a temperature check governance vote from the whole network of wallet holders to decide if that is a direction that the community would like to go in. And if the signaling proposal were successful, proposal on governance on the Kepler wallet, where all of the wallet holders would levy their formal and official vote about the topic. So it's sort of a multi-staged process, and it probably requires some consensus building and education amongst the community if that is something that you wanted to propose or have the community consider. but deviations that are fairly significant from the white paper, and this is a use case that isn't in that defined scope in the white paper, do require a network-wide governance vote. And at this juncture, there are almost 17,000 wallet holders that have Regen tokens. So it's a lot of people. It's a big community to engage about adding additional use cases that would have the rights to use the tools we've developed in the eco credit module and the credit design and instantiation systems that are available. Does that help you understand some of the first steps that I would recommend and what the basic process kind of looks like?
Yes, I think so. That's very useful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Yeah, come in. I mean, if you're interested in this happening, certainly reach out to folks in the community on Twitter or on Discord. And I would definitely start by trying to see if there are other folks working on plastic use cases that are already in the network that you could have a sort of a coalition approach with, because coalition approaches tend to work better in our community than one person's request uniquely.
Yes, obviously. That's the more we can get together on this is obviously always better. I mean, like you talked about, Vera even has some standards on this as well now, so it's there should be more people involved, I suppose.
Yeah,
Right on.
absolutely. Well, thank you for the question. We appreciate it.
Thanks everybody for being here. We're at the top of the hour. Honor everyone needing to move on with the day. Special thanks to Sarah. It's nice to have you host today, and all of the knowledge and energy you bring. So grateful for you. And actually, it was Sarah's birthday yesterday. Everybody, big happy birthday to Sarah Bax, as we call her, a real powerhouse in the Regen Network ecosystem. So with that, let's tie up. Everyone go about your business of protecting the planet. Be happy eco warriors, and we're grateful for this growing community and for building on Regen Network. So have a great one, everybody. We'll talk soon. Bye.